After much debate, Brown agreed that if the teams supplied their own funding, the university would reinstate their original varsity facilities and privileges.
They have everything any varsity team has, except they don't have regular university funding. They have to raise their own funds from donors, wherever they can find it. And that's what happened to all four of those teams.
3 of the teams were able to raise the needed funding with relative ease, but for the gymnasts, it was a challenge.
We did whatever we could. We got together with the University of Rhode Island and we had a clinic for little children. We sold candy. We wrote to hundreds of organizations asking for donations.
We did back handsprings and back tucks on the main green one afternoon, and we put up signs saying flips on the green for $2.
We sewed our own leotards. We had to sell baked goods.
Although all the teams came back the next season with funding, the women athletes particularly felt they were denied access to their former varsity privileges.
Brown really changed the terms. We thought we would have access to the trainers like we'd always had. He actually physically locked us out of our locker room and told us that was for varsity athletes.
We began to see signs slowly that it wasn't just a financial decision, that some of the opportunities that we'd previously had being varsity athletes on campus were no longer available to us.
I thought they would be incredibly proud and incredibly excited to have us come back the next year and think, wow, what an amazing group of women who went out there and got the money they needed because we couldn't provide it.
We watched other athletes be really supported and funded and wondered why this had been changed on us.
They were angry. All our dreams were shattered. It was like, what are we going to do?
I do remember that somebody had recommended that we should get in touch with the trial lawyers for public justice because there was this law called Title IX.
It happens in the blink of an eye. That defining moment in every game. When that moment comes, will you have ice in your veins?
It's here, it's clear. New Gatorade Ice.
What do women really want? Oh, the usual things. Jewelry, moisturizers, bags. If you're a woman with a passion to play, then call now. Your magazine has arrived. Sports Illustrated Women. Tone up and fuel up. Cool styles and great gear. And now a special offer. Call now for a free preview issue. Absolutely risk-free. Get Sports Illustrated Women. Live it.
Ultra powerful. Ultra easy. Ultra powerful. Ultra easy. This is the concept behind new Lotrimin Ultra, the new way to cure athlete's foot. Why is it ultra powerful? Because it's got a new prescription strength ingredient that nobody else has. Why is it ultra easy? Because you just have to use it once a day. And it keeps your athlete's foot free for 3 months. Ultra powerful, ultra easy. New once a day Lotrimin Ultra.
I'm Jay Moore. Join me Tuesday with my guests Jeff Gordon and Al Sharpton. That's a lot of hair product.
He's tough, yet sensitive. He's smart, yet humble. More sports kicks off the block with Jeff Gordon and Al Sharpton. Tuesday, 8 Eastern on ESPN.
A lot of people think that our teams were cut, and then we immediately filed a lawsuit. And it actually didn't happen that way at all. We worked for a year to try and reach a compromise with Brown, and we threw out all kinds of suggestions of ways that we thought this could work.
I think the men's water polo and golf players were a little resentful. We all had friends who played on those teams, and I think they were a little bit upset that just because they weren't women, they didn't have any recourse, and they couldn't really do anything. But at the same time, they had more opportunities to play other sports than we did as women.
One part of the suit against Brown accused the university of treating its women athletes worse than the men.
I think I knew that we didn't get all the same perks that the men's teams were getting. I knew that we didn't have our own trainer, that we didn't have sort of choice times for workouts in the weight rooms.
the boathouse, the women got dressed in this steam room, basically. It was tiny. It was about as big as a bathroom. And there were, you know, all of us, I don't know, there were probably 25 women who would change in this tiny boiler room. It was nasty. A cement floor, wet, just disgusting. And the men's team had a full locker room with showers and all this wonderful stuff.
In terms of meal allowances for away competitions, the men's teams routinely got more money than the women's teams. And yes, they might eat more, but not 3 times as much.
And strangely, there were really no practice times available because the floor was being refinished, or, gee, well, the basketball team needs to start practicing because it's the beginning of their season.
Everything from the differences between the men's ice hockey locker room compared to the women's ice hockey locker room, to the quality of the uniforms and practice equipment the teams got. You didn't have to do any intensive investigation to see that at Brown, frankly, like most schools in this country, women were getting the short end of the stick.
The disparities that I found were minimal. One that comes to mind was women's sports bras versus athletic supporters. University was providing athletic supporters, but they weren't providing sports bras. The differences were de minimis.
Very few families will feed one child steak and the other child hamburg as a constant approach. And this is really what the battle boiled down to. The women finally said, we want some of the steak.
In the fall of 1994, Cohen versus Brown finally went to trial, 2 years after the suit had been filed. By then, Amy Cohen had already graduated.
The good news was that Brown University made the intellectually correct decision that there were not going to be disparities. And they were more than happy to make sure that women's teams were treated the same as men.
Within the first 2 days of the trial, Brown agreed to equal treatment for the men's and women's teams. The changes opened the eyes of hockey player Kate Wiley, an early skeptic of the case.
When I first heard about the Title IX case being brought to court at Brown, I think I was initially embarrassed because I grew up deliberately not wanting to be a feminist.
Growing up in Massachusetts, what Kate did want was to excel as a hockey goalie.
I grew up playing on a boys' youth hockey team from the time I was about 8 years old until high school. I grew up playing with the boys because I didn't really have any other choice. It was all boys except for me. I unfortunately experienced some discrimination when I was in high school. The coach of the varsity high school hockey team did not want me on his team, not because of my level of play necessarily, but because I was a female. And for me, that was frustrating because I didn't even know how to process it. I couldn't get better. I couldn't go home and work on my skills. I couldn't improve and come back the next year. There was something about me I could never change, and that was being female. And I didn't know how to react.
And when her fellow athletes filed suit against her university, she again was not sure how to react.
I was a bit embarrassed by that concept of women forcing themselves into a new arena. But we walked into our locker room, and it had been completely gutted, renovated. There were brand new rugs and cubbies, and we had our own showers and bathrooms. Woohoo!
Brown basically restructured their entire treatment of the women's program to elevate it so it was very close to the men's program.
We had access to the trainers again. We had our locker room back. We had regular buses like the other athletes. Women had better access to the better fields.